The Wolverine, Bob. Summoned to Japan by an old acquaintance, Wolverine becomes embroiled in a conflict that forces him to confront his own demons. It stars Hugh Jackman and a couple Japanese actresses, Tao Okamoto and Rita Fukushima, that we haven't seen before. Directed by James Mangold, who did 310 to Yuma and Walk the Line. Mangold? Mangold? Probably Mangold.
Mangold, yeah.
Written by a pair of dudes with decent credentials. Mark Bombeck, who did Unstoppable and Live Free or Die Hard, if that's a good credential. And Scott Frank, who did Minority Report and The Interpreter.
Woo!
Have a mini review for us, Bob?
I do. Here, let me pull it up here. The Wolverine, I'm giving you a 3.5 out of 5, sir. If you're a person, if I can personify you as a movie. So this is what I have to say about this movie. As a fan of the X-Men premise, I enjoyed the pacing and story, even if overall it felt less satisfying as compared to those in the franchise with a wider focus. Plus, the last act was just pretty silly, even by comic book standards. How about you? I want to hear yours, and then I want to hear your reaction to mine.
Okay. Yeah, okay. There's something quite appealing about Jackman's Wolverine as a barely civilized, not quite tame wild man, and Wolverine and Japanese culture are a great fit. Though the final showdown is over the top for a comic book movie, even, and there are dots in Logan's journey left unconnected, there's a lot to love here.
Okay. Seems like we're similarly praising it in a watered down sort of way.
So I can never decide. Sometimes I'm tempted to leave my rating till the very end, but I don't know if I can always do it.
Well, you know me, I'm like dying here to know it, but I didn't want to come out and say it because I feel like I do that every time. Come on, tell me your rating.
All right, I'll give you my rating. 3.5 out of 5.
Whoa, we're the same. Cool.
Yeah, high five. Woo. So yeah, I thought our mini reviews were actually pretty similar too. Even for a comic book movie, or even by comic book standards, was right there.
Yeah, it started out really intriguing. The X-Men premise, it's Wolverine. Hugh Jackman does a great job. He's alone. He has to find himself again for the 4th time. But we forgive that because it works for him so well. He's, he's a loner in Canada or whatever. And then he ends up going to Japan. We get some fresh faces. There's nice Japanese twist to the whole thing, which isn't that big of a twist. We're familiar with Japanese martial arts culture as it pertains to Hollywood movies, but hey, I'm always a fan of seeing it again, and throw it in with an X-Men movie. If you do it well, I'm cool with it, right?
Yeah, and Wolverine, Bob. Wolverine. There's just something about him. It's really easy to like him. And we've had Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in like a ton of movies in the last dozen years, right?
Yeah, he's like the one actor who is game for making as many of these as possible.
Is it usually the actor who puts the brakes on?
Well, it has been in some of the other ones. I mean, we did have like Halle Berry and, well, Famke Janssen was in this one too, with her more than a cameo but not really a real character role.
She could probably do all her filming in one day just in that bed.
Yeah, exactly. The sideways, like, Logan. Oh, yeah, the main character's name is Logan. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but I thought it was cool. So, yeah, that's part of the problem with the movie, though, is it's almost too much Wolverine. Like, he's great. He's even better when he's, like, the guy you like the most out of the group of guys that are all fighting for this cause and dealing with how humanity deals with, the evolution of species and at a rapid pace. Like the whole premise of X-Men is super cool, but then when you isolate it just to Wolverine, it feels less cool even if he's still super cool. It's like this weird mix in the middle. I don't know if that happened to you, but that's what happens to me.
Yeah, so I haven't seen all of the Wolverine or X-Men movies.
Which ones have you seen or haven't you seen? Because that determines where you'll stack rank this and how you judge it. At least it does for me, so now I have to know.
Well, I saw the original one, but that was like 12 years ago or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that one was forgivable because it was a lower budget and the first of its kind in some ways, but it still wasn't that good, even though it was good if you give it the benefit of the doubt. But what other ones?
That might be it. I might have seen the second one, but I can't remember.
Okay.
It's been a long time, right?
Yeah, it has been. So I'll just give you my quick overview here.
Rank them for me.
Yeah, so the first one I already kind of said. in first place for me is X2 and this most recent one, which was the reboot, where they went back in time and got all new actors. With James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as the two leads. Absolutely love this latest X-Men. So that one and the second one are the two best.
Wait,
And then
was Hugh Jackman in the reboot?
he had a cameo.
Oh, okay.
He just comes on screen and says, "Go fuck yourselves." Okay, I shouldn't have given that away, but it's a funny scene. But yeah, he's barely in it. So those two are excellent. They're everything that you want in an X-Men movie. An ensemble cast, more than one bad guy, or not necessarily a bad guy and a good guy, but like two sides of the same problem with humanity in the middle, the unmutated version of humanity. Like when it's more complicated like that, X-Men really shines. But in the simplified plots where it's Wolverine, which now he's had two movies that are only about him with him in the name of the movie. Something's missing, something's lacking. Although this one is the better one as compared to the other Wolverine movie, which starred, in addition to Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber as his brother, who is also a mutant.
No.
But you didn't miss anything by missing that one. This one's a much better story of the Wolverine.
So how many is that? 5?
Yeah, let's see. Okay, X1, X2, X3 is The Last Stand, which a lot of people had issues with. I thought it was okay, especially compared to that other Wolverine one. So those 3. Then there's the Wolverine one, 4. Then there's the reboot, 5, and then this is the 6th. I think I've got them all.
X-Men, but
yeah.
Hugh Jackman's really only a star in 5 of them.
Yeah.
All right, and this is the third best one.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th. But it's definitely a notch down from the 2 in the top spot, I guess, is my stronger point.
Okay, well, thanks for running down there. Without all that context, just coming through as a movie watcher, I sort of liked Wolverine. I feel like, as I alluded to in my mini review, he's got a lot of this archetypal wild man to him, almost like he's written out of the book Iron John. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
No.
But he's this half beast, half man, not always in control of his destructive power. Like at one point in this movie, he wakes up in a dream and he's got his claws in Jane Grey. I don't know if that was anything like how it really happened, but it just seemed very significant, very just how I think of Wolverine. He's got his demons that make him do destructive things, whether he can control it or not.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and that would have been an even better scene if it hadn't already been done in another X-Men movie. It was like a huge point of the first one. Waking up from the dream and accidentally stabbing someone. Oh no! But sorry to derail your original point. He is a very likable character of being the badass who has his inner demons, who doesn't play by the rules, but doesn't like the way other people don't play by the rules. Like he has a sense of morality and wanting to protect humans, even if it's against the better judgment of the progressive stance of most mutants who feel like humans are just trying to repress and keep mutants segregated, basically. So I like how he rides that line.
But I feel like it's judgment. He has the same judgment that he tries to be civilized. It's just his animal passions don't allow him to.
Right. Yep.
But I did have some questions,
okay.
Bob. Nick is our usual comics expert. He couldn't be with us today, but let's see. Maybe you're familiar enough that you can help us with some of these. So
I'll do my best.
Here's my main one, though. So Wolverine has super fast healing,
mm-hmm.
but has it always been this fast? I mean, he just takes so many beatings and they just go right away. At one point, he gets sliced practically in half, but he heals virtually instantly. Is it even possible to kill him? Like a brain shot, like a zombie? I guess we have a clue at the very end that might have done the trick. But he seems like he's practically Superman, and that he doesn't have to have any regard for personal harm.
Yeah, and in earlier movies, like in X2, he does get shot right in the head, like right here, and he gets knocked out. And so I guess I would say progressively, at least in the movies, he's tends to be healing faster the more movies that come out. It's
Uh,
like when they do sequels and it's like more special effects, like with Wolverine, it's like more chances to almost die, but not really because he's just comes right back. Um, I liked it more when he was, gets knocked out by getting shot in the head, as is the case in X2 and some other of the earlier cases of where he gets hurt pretty bad and it takes him out. In this movie, we do the whole, and this is another thing that was kind of a stereotypical comic book sort of thing. What if we take the power away because by some magical technology we remove the power, and it's also an existential crisis for the character because he doesn't really love the power even though he does love it because it's who he is. Ugh. And yeah.
well, but that had one nice thing to it. At least there were some stakes. I mean, again, like I just invoked Superman a minute ago, but I felt like that again. Nothing's gonna happen to Wolverine because he just can't kill him. Except now, with trying hard not to spoil this, we get a clue how, let me say, someone like Wolverine might be killed, and it seems like a bullet to the head might have done it in this movie. Does that make any sense? What I'm getting at?
Yes, but that's a problem because it is inconsistent because a bullet to the head technically wouldn't kill him.
All
It
right.
feels like there has to be more organs shredded at the exact same time. And I should, standard disclaimer or disclaimer for me, I'm not a Wolverine expert. I haven't like read all the comics. I only watched the cartoons when I was younger, and I've seen all the movies. That's like the extent of my knowledge. But
All
it,
right.
it seems like killing him is really, really difficult. And in one of the earlier movies, he does have metal running through his body, and one of the supervillains, Magneto, can control that metal.
That's
Um,
true. And we saw that little clip at the very end,
right.
after
Yeah.
the trailer.
And so there's some
After
hints
the
that the metal being running all through his body, if somebody who can control that metal could like rip his whole body apart by just yanking his skeleton out of him, basically, that could kill him theoretically, but that hasn't happened yet.
Okay, fair enough, kind of, but it has to be a superpower, in other words.
Right, right. Well, and that said, though, the way they did the take the power away thing and all of a sudden there's stakes, I like how you said you liked it, but I wish they would have been more consistent with it. This is another problem when comic book movies, if they're going to create rules in the universe that are specific to the movie and aren't already known by everyone, they have to be pretty careful because we have a lot of scenes where he gets shot in the shoulder or in the stomach and then he's able to like still kick ass and take out like 5 other people. And then we have one scene where he gets shot in the leg and he has to limp a bunch and can't run. But
That's
even though
true.
he's not able to be healed super fast, I swear, even though he's Wolverine and a super buff dude and in tons of good shape, like he still does way too much for being without his superpower.
That's fair enough. It really didn't help us know when he might get injured and when he might get less injured. I felt like maybe he was progressively getting worse. His powers were slowly dwindling or something. But you're right.
Could
It didn't
be.
really tell us.
Right. So,
So let's talk more about this ending. I have to say I liked it. You call it the third act where it starts to go off the rails. Now it's probably about right. I mean there were two things for me that I didn't like about the ending. One of them was that final scene. I felt that final showdown, I should say. I felt like that was sort of ridiculous even by comic book standards. Like, how many times did Wolverine get tossed down that big well? Was it 3? You just see him flying. Ah! All of a sudden he's back up to the top again.
yeah, and then there was the whole like superpower versus other superpower. If you supercharge the superpower, it does better than the superpower that isn't supercharged, and we're just going to show that by like having steel light on fire, or things like that are just over the top. Like you're learning the rules as you go, and it's all for the epicness of the end scene, but it backfires a bit.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I thought they didn't do well enough with was, so we start with I thought an interesting crisis that he can't die. I mean, that was certainly shown through the movie, but we meet him at a time when he sort of wishes he could die, or at least we get the impression that he might wish he could die. Um, and I felt like that was a real crisis for him. And then at the end, he'd completely changed his mind, but I didn't see what led him to change his mind on that.
Yeah, the movie totally dropped the ball there. Like, there's nothing to suggest. I mean, and in the last scene, he like hops on a plane with one of the other lead characters. That's a Japanese character introduced in this film, and that like they're going to be best buddies or something. Which the whole point is, it can't be a happy ending because you can't have best buddies when everyone's dying as he lives forever. So I don't know why. It's all better for him now, but it seemed like they just glossed over it.
Yeah. Anyway, as far as my standard that I've been giving movies lately, I spent most of the time watching this movie enjoying it.
Less annoyed.
Yeah. And so 3.5 stars is what I end up giving it. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff, a lot to like in it, even character-wise, at least for me, not being an X-Men expert. But the ending sort of just had a lot not to like.
Yeah, the ending had this like Pacific Rim meets Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know if like the main boss looked like the Super Shredder. If anybody remembers the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, it's okay if you don't. It's a jab. What I'm trying to say is it was like over the top, like stealing from two other movies that weren't there to be stolen from to make an original movie better. But did you stick around for the other ending in the credits?
Yeah, for one extra ending I did. Was there another one?
No, I don't think so. I think I stayed through to that.
Just in case?
Just in case. But
when he's going through the airport security?
Yeah, I loved that. I loved it. That was like the ending that made the first ending seem less bad.
It's like a little preview of what's to come.
Because it sort of was hinting at like more epicness of the whole crew getting back together. So one thing I wanted to ask you though, what did you think of the whole Jean Grey character coming back as a dream sequence slash inner demon of sorts for Logan as he was trying to let her go? So if you don't remember, since you didn't watch the other movies, it's hard to put the blame all on Wolverine for this, but he was involved in her death in a way that makes him feel like he's to blame for it, even though it's more complicated than that. And if you follow the comic books or know more about her story, she's not necessarily dead, but she could be dead. It's weird how the movies have treated it, but I want to see how you think about it, seeing the movie in isolation.
Well, mixed feelings again. I thought it was just fine, just for it to be a personification of one of his demons. Like, I like that aspect of Wolverine, as I've been talking about. He's very conflicted, tortured on the inside. And that was a representation there, and it made me really see what some of his problems were, that he certainly felt responsible, which is all that really matters if you're talking about a demon.
Right.
At the same time, that went right hand in hand with the other thing. Maybe that's exactly the other thing. I didn't understand why it stopped being a demon at the end. He just, changed his mind, got over it, but I didn't see that transformation in him.
Yeah, and we didn't see, I guess since Jean Grey was mostly used as a personification here, we didn't see how she felt about it as much. Actually, there was a little hint of like, I'm still here alone, and that was intriguing because I'd love to see them play with her character more and not just have her be a dream, because I don't want to get into the whole comic book backstory, but she's not really dead, I promise. Or at least... But the movies maybe are using her as just somebody dead. I don't know.
If he thinks she's dead, she can still haunt him in his dreams.
Yeah. So
there you go, 3.5 from both. That's pretty much means that it's objectively a 3.5 for every single person on the planet. So
pretty sure. Mm-hmm.
So go see it if you feel like a 3.5 star movie.
And if you like X-Men, you shouldn't miss it. It's not the one to skip out on. Skip out on some of the others first.
All right.